Alina Vasquez rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. She had been working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station for 3 months now. The station floated in the dark space around Neptune, far from Earth's warm sun. Most nights were quiet. Too quiet. The monitoring station was humanity's ear to the galaxy. Dozens of scientists and officers worked here, listening for any sounds from alien worlds. For 50 years, they had heard nothing but the empty whisper of space. Alina watched the green lines dance across her screen. Radio waves, energy bursts, cosmic background noise. All normal, all boring. She yawned and checked the time. Only 2 hours left until her shift ended. Then something changed. A new signal appeared on her screen. Alina sat up straight and frowned. The signal was coming from a star system called Kepler 442, over 1,000 light-years away. That was impossibly far for any normal radio signal to travel and still be this strong. The signal started as numbers. Simple math. 2 + 2 = 4. 3 × 5 = 15. It was the kind of message scientists had always hoped to receive from alien civilizations. Proof that someone out there could think and count just like humans. Alina's heart began to beat faster. She reached for the emergency button that would wake up the entire station. But before she could press it, the signal changed. The number stopped. What came next made Alina's blood turn cold. Voices. Alien voices speaking in languages she had never heard before. But she did not need to understand the words to know what they meant. These were cries for help. Desperate screams. The sound of a civilization dying. Alina heard explosions in the background. The sharp crack of energy weapons. The deep rumble of massive ships being torn apart. And through it all, those terrible voices begging for someone, anyone, to save them. She hit the emergency button with a shaking hand. Red lights flashed throughout the station. Within minutes, her supervisor, Dr. Marcus Webb, burst into the communications room. His gray hair was messy from sleep, and his shirt was only half-buttoned. "What is it, Vasquez?" he asked. "Another false alarm?" Alina pointed at her screen with a trembling finger. "Listen," she whispered. Dr. Webb put on the headphones. His face went pale as he heard the alien voices, the sounds of a war being lost, the last desperate moments of an entire world. "Dear God," he breathed. "How long has this been going on?" 5 minutes, Alina said. Maybe 6. The signal is incredibly strong. Stronger than anything we have ever received from deep space. Dr. Webb grabbed the phone and started making calls. Within an hour, the station was buzzing with activity. Every scientist who worked there had been woken up and called in. The xenolinguistics team arrived first, followed by the military advisors and the communications experts. But as they worked to decode the alien messages, something strange happened. The tone of the transmission began to change. The desperate cries for help were still there. But now there were other sounds mixed in. Angry voices, threatening words in those same alien languages. The mathematical sequences returned, but now they looked like targeting coordinates, weapon specifications, battle plans. Dr. Sarah Kim, the head of the xenolinguistics team, looked confused as she studied the translations. "This does not make sense," she said. "Half of this signal is clearly a distress call. They are begging for rescue. But the other half, ... double quotes." She paused and shook her head. "The other half sounds like a declaration of war." Admiral Chinwei arrived at the station 12 hours after the signal was first detected. He was a tall man with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. As the commanding officer of the Seoul Defense Fleet, he had the final say on how humanity would respond to any alien contact. The admiral listened to the recordings in silence. His face showed no emotion as he heard the alien voices crying out. In the darkness, when the playback finished, he turned to Dr. Webb. "How many of these transmissions have we received?" he asked. 17 so far, Dr. Webb replied. "They keep coming every few hours. Each one is different, but they all have the same pattern. Distress calls mixed with what might be threats." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "Any theories about what? we are hearing? Dr. Kim stepped forward. We have several ideas, sir. It could be two different alien species, one asking for help, the other making threats. Or it could be the same species, but the signal is damaged or being interfered with somehow. Or, said Dr. Webb quietly, it could be a trap. Someone trying to lure Earth's ships away from home by pretending to need help. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that humanity's first contact with alien life would be the most important moment in human history. But no one had expected it to be this confusing. Admiral Chen walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, over 1,000 light-years away, something was happening. Something that might determine the future of both humanity. And whoever was sending these signals, how long would it take our fastest ships to reach this Kepler 442 system, he asked. About 18 months, sir, replied Captain Torres, his military advisor. But, sir, sending ships that far based on these signals would be incredibly risky. We do not know what we would find when we got there. Admiral Chen continued to stare at the stars. And if we do nothing, if someone really is calling for help and we ignore them? No one answered. They all knew what the Admiral was thinking. Humanity had always prided itself on helping others. It was one of the things that made humans different from the animals they had evolved from. But this decision would affect not just one person or one city, but potentially the entire human race. As if summoned by their thoughts, another signal came through Elena's equipment. This one was longer than the others, more desperate. Alien. Voices sounded weaker now, as if whoever was sending them was running out of time. Admiral Chen closed his eyes and listened. When the signal ended, he turned back to the room full of scientists and officers. Prepare a report, he said quietly. I need to brief the Terran Council within 6 hours. They will want to know everything we have learned about these signals. What? Will you recommend, sir? Asked Dr. Webb. The Admiral looked at each person in the room. These were some of the smartest humans alive. If they could not figure out whether the signals were a cry for help or a threat, how could anyone? I will recommend that we do what humans have always done when faced with the unknown, Admiral Chen said. We will choose hope over fear. If someone needs our help, we will not let them face the darkness alone. The Terran Council met in emergency session 3 days after the alien signals were first detected. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in the gleaming tower that rose above Lake Geneva. The mood in the Great Hall was tense as Admiral Chenwei stood before the assembly. Members of the Council, he began, his voice echoing through the chamber. We face a decision that will define humanity's place in the galaxy. Do we respond to these signals, or do we remain silent? Counselor. Martinez from the South American Federation was the first to speak. Admiral, you are asking us to risk millions of lives based on transmissions we cannot even understand properly. What if this is a trap? What if we send our fleet into an ambush? And what if it is not? Replied Counselor Okafor from the African Union. What if an entire civilization is dying while we debate? How will history judge us if we do nothing? The argument that followed lasted for hours. Some council members wanted to send a small scouting force first. Others insisted that any response would be too dangerous. A few suggested that humanity should focus on defending Earth rather than venturing into unknown space. Admiral Chen listened to every word. He had heard all these arguments before in his own mind. But as the debate continued, more alien signals arrived at the monitoring station. Each one seemed more desperate than the last. Dr. Kim's latest translation reports made the situation even more confusing. The aliens seemed to be warning Earth to stay away while also begging for rescue. It was as if they wanted help, but knew that anyone who came would face terrible danger. Council members Admiral Chen said during a brief recess, I have served in space for 30 years. I've seen pirates, asteroids, and solar storms. I have never seen anything that scared me as much as the idea of ignoring someone who needs help. Counselor Petrov from the Russian Republic shook his head. Admiral, your compassion is admirable, but you are not responsible for the safety of Earth. We are. If we send the fleet away, and Earth is attacked while our ships are gone, what then? Then we will face that danger when it comes, Admiral Chen replied, but we will face it knowing that we did not abandon others when they called for help. The debate resumed. Outside the council chamber, the people of Earth watched the proceedings. On their screens, social media was filled with arguments that mirrored those happening inside the chamber. Some humans demanded that Earth help the aliens. Others insisted that humanity's first duty was to protect itself. Alina Vasquez watched the debates from the monitoring station. She had barely slept since detecting the first signal. Every few hours, another transmission would arrive from Kepler 442. The alien voices were getting weaker. Whatever was happening out there, it was getting worse. "They are running out of time," she told Dr. Webb as they listened to the latest signal. "I can hear it in their voices. They do not have much longer." Dr. Webb nodded grimly. "The Admiral knows, but the Council is afraid. They have good reason to be." On the fourth day of debates, something changed. A new signal arrived that was different from all the others. This one contained images. Pictures transmitted across the vast distance of space. The first image showed a beautiful blue and green planet with crystal cities that sparkled like diamonds. The second showed the same planet under attack by enormous black ships that looked more like living creatures than machines. The third image was the most horrible of all. It showed those crystal cities burning while dark shapes consumed everything in their path. But the final image was what convinced the Council. It showed star charts, navigation data. The attacking ships were not just destroying this one world. They were moving from system to system, consuming everything in their path. And according to the charts, several human colonies lay in their projected route. When Admiral Chen showed these images to the Council, the chamber fell silent. Councilor Martinez was the first to speak. "If these creatures are real," he said slowly, "then helping this alien world might not be charity. It might be our only chance of survival." The vote was close. 43 nations voted to send the fleet. 37 voted against, 12 abstained. But it was enough. Admiral Chen felt a weight lift from his shoulders when the results were announced. He had been prepared to resign his commission and take the fleet anyway if the Council had voted no. Now he could act with the full authority of Earth behind him. The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Admiral Chen assembled the largest fleet in human history. 847 ships of every size and type. Massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Fast cruisers that could outrun anything in space. Medical ships equipped with the most advanced hospitals Earth could build. Engineering vessels loaded with tools to rebuild entire worlds. But Admiral Chen knew that weapons and machines would not be enough. He also ordered the fleet to carry something else. Food, medicine, blankets, and toys for children. Art and music from every culture on Earth. If they were going to make first contact with an alien civilization, he wanted them to see the best of humanity. Captain Sarah Morrison commanded the flagship, the EFS Terra's Hope. She found Admiral Chen on the bridge as the fleet prepared to depart. "Sir, the crew is asking what our rules of engagement will be when we reach Kepler 442. Admiral Chen looked out at the hundreds of ships gathering around them. 2.5 million people had volunteered for this mission. They came from every nation, every background, every walk of life. But they all shared one thing. They believed that helping others was worth any risk. "Our rules are simple, Captain," he said. "We go not as conquerors, but as neighbors. If someone is in trouble, we help them. If someone threatens the innocent, we stop them. And if we have to choose between saving ourselves and saving others, we choose others." Captain Morrison nodded. "And if this is a trap, sir?" Admiral Chen smiled for the first time in days. "Then we spring it together. And we show whoever said it what happens when they threaten people under human protection." The fleet departed from Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. Billions of people watched as the ships activated their hyperspace drives and vanished into the darkness between stars. They would not return for at least 3 years. Maybe never. But as Alina Vasquez watched the fleet disappear, she felt proud to be human. Whatever waited for them in the Kepler 442 system, Earth's children would face it with courage and compassion. The last message Admiral Chen sent to Earth before entering hyperspace was broadcast to every screen on the planet. "We go into the unknown not because we must, but because we choose to. When someone calls for help, humanity answers, that is who we are. That is who we will always be. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes and fears of an entire world. 18 months later, Day would arrive at Kepler 442 and discover that some choices define not just individuals, but entire species. The 80-month journey through hyperspace felt like the longest trip in human history. Admiral Chen walked through the corridors of the EFS Terra's Hope every day, checking on his crew and trying to keep morale high. 2.5 million? People were traveling through the darkness between stars, not knowing what they would find when they arrived. Lieutenant Commander Jackson ran combat simulations every week. The fleet practiced everything they could think of. Rescue missions where they had to evacuate millions of aliens from a dying planet, battle scenarios where they fought against unknown enemies, first contact protocols for meeting peaceful civilizations. Problem is, we do not know what we are flying into, Jackson told Admiral Chen after one particularly difficult training session. The enemy ships in those alien pictures looked like nothing we have ever seen before. Our weapons might not even work against them. Admiral Chen nodded. Then we will have to be creative. Humans have always been good at adapting to new situations. Dr. Kim spent her time studying the alien transmissions, and the signals had stopped coming 2 months after the fleet left Earth. Either the aliens were all dead, or they had found a way to escape. She hoped it was the second option. Working with the computer specialists, she had managed to learn some basic words in the alien language. The species called themselves the Zephyrians. Their world was called Zephyr Prime, the attacking. Creatures were known as the Devourers. The name tells us a lot, she explained to Admiral Chen during one of their briefings. Every reference to these Devourers describes them as consumers. They do not just destroy, they eat, they absorb, they take everything and leave nothing behind. Lena Vasquez had volunteered to join the fleet as a communications specialist. She felt responsible for the mission, since she had been the first to detect the alien signals. During the long journey, she worked with Dr. Kim to prepare first contact protocols. If any Zephyrians are still alive when we arrive, Elena said, they will probably be terrified. They've been fighting for their lives for months. They might not trust us at first. Captain Morrison spent her time studying the star charts of the Kepler 442 system. 7 planets orbited the star. 3 were gas giants too far from the sun to support life. 2 were rocky worlds too close to the star. 1 was a frozen ice ball on the outer edge of the system. The 7th planet was Zephyr Prime. It was almost exactly like Earth. The right distance from its sun. The right size? The right atmosphere? It should have been a paradise. These Devourers are as dangerous as the aliens claimed. Captain Morrison told Admiral Chen, we need to be ready for anything. It might still be in the system when we arrive. As the months passed, the crew grew more anxious. Some began to wonder if they were flying into a trap. Others worried that they would arrive too late to help anyone. A few started to question whether humanity had any business interfering in alien conflicts. Admiral Chen addressed these concerns during ship-wide broadcasts. We are not going to Kepler 442 to be heroes, he said. We are going because someone asked for help. That is reason enough. 3 weeks before they were scheduled to arrive, the fleet's long-range sensors began picking up strange readings from the Kepler 442 system. The sensor data was confusing and contradictory. Some readings suggested massive energy discharges, like the aftermath of a great battle. Others showed movement patterns that did not match any known type of spacecraft. Whatever happened there, Chief Sensor Operator Park reported, it was big. Really big. The energy signatures are off the charts. Admiral Chen called a meeting of all ship commanders. The holographic conference room was filled with captains and admirals from across the fleet. Everyone looked tense as they studied the sensor data. We will drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, Admiral Chen announced. I want all ships on full alert. Weapons ready but not targeted. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Captain Martinez of the medical ship EFS Mercy raised her hand. Sir, if there are survivors, they will need immediate medical attention. Should we move the hospital ships forward? Not until we know the system is secure. Admiral Chen replied. I will not risk the medical staff until we understand what we are facing. The final week of the journey seemed to last forever. The crew checked and rechecked their equipment. Weapons specialists ran diagnostics on every gun and missile. Medical teams prepared their facilities for alien patients they had never seen before. Engineering crews loaded construction robots with supplies to rebuild damaged cities. On the last day, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Hope and watched the countdown timer. In 12 hours, they would drop out of hyperspace and see the Kepler 442 system for the first time. Elena Vasquez was at her communication station, ready to send the first human message to an alien civilization. Her hand shook slightly as she reviewed the greeting she had prepared. This is the Terran Federation fleet. We received your distress call. We are here to help. When the timer reached 0, 847 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the same moment. What they saw made everyone gasp. 3 of the 7 planets were dead. Their surfaces were gray and lifeless, stripped of everything that had once made them beautiful. The 4th planet, Zephyr Prime, was partially covered in the same gray devastation. But parts of it still showed the blue and green colors of a living world. Around Zephyr Prime, a battle was taking place. Dozens of elegant ships that looked like they were made of crystal were fighting against massive black vessels that seemed to be alive. The black ships moved like predators, surrounding and consuming the crystal ships one by one. My God, whispered Captain Morrison, we're not too late. The battle is still going on. Admiral Chen stepped forward and looked at the tactical display. The crystal ships were clearly losing. There were only about 30 of them left, surrounded by more than 100 of the Black Devourer vessels. All ships, he announced, over the fleet-wide communication system. This is Admiral Chen. We have found the Zephyrians. They are still fighting. They are still alive. And they need our help right now. The Devourer ships had noticed the human fleet. Several of the largest ones were turning away from their attack on the Zephyrians and moving toward the newcomers. They moved with a fluid grace that was both beautiful and terrifying. Elena Vasquez opened a channel on all frequencies. This is the Terran Federation fleet, she broadcast. Zephyrian vessels, we received your distress call. We are here to help. Please respond. For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was musical and strange, but the translation software Dr. Kim had prepared worked perfectly. Human ships, the alien voice said. You should not have come. The Devourers will follow you home. They will consume your world as they have consumed ours. Admiral Chen took the microphone from Elena. Zephyrian vessel. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the Terran Federation. We did not come here to run away. We came to stand with you. The largest of the Devourer ships was now moving directly toward the human fleet. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Terra's Hope. Its black surface rippled like living skin, and strange lights pulsed beneath its hull. All ships, Admiral Chen ordered, moved to protect the Zephyrian vessels. Whatever happens next, we do not let them face this alone. The human fleet spread out in a defensive formation around the surviving Zephyrian ships. 847 vessels from Earth, facing an enemy they did not understand. In a star system more than 1,000 light-years from home, but Admiral Chen smiled as he watched his fleet take position. This was why humanity had come to the stars. It's not to conquer or explore, but to stand beside others when the darkness came calling. Open fire, he commanded. The space around Zephyr Prime erupted in light and fire as the human fleet opened fire on the Devourer ships. Plasma cannons and missile launchers sent thousands of projectiles streaking through the darkness. The first volley struck the nearest. Devourer, vessel, and Admiral Chen held his breath, waiting to see what would happen. The black ship shuddered as the human weapons hit its hull. Strange green liquid sprayed from the impact points, floating in space like alien blood. The creature ship let out a sound that somehow traveled through the vacuum. It was a shriek of pain and rage that made everyone on the human ships shiver. We heard it, Captain Morrison said with surprise. Our weapons actually work against them. But the Devourers were quick to respond. The damaged ship fired back with weapons that looked like living tentacles, instead of missiles or energy beams. It launched organic projectiles that moved through space like swimming fish. When they hit human ships, they began eating through the hull plating. Evasive maneuvers, Admiral Chen ordered. Do not let those things attach to our ships. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. The Devourers fought like a pack of hungry animals rather than a disciplined fleet. They swarmed around individual human ships, trying to overwhelm them with numbers. But the humans had trained for this. Captain Torres of the destroyer, EFS Lightning, used her ship speed to dart between the larger Devourer vessels, firing at their weak points. Lieutenant Commander Park of the Cruiser F's Resolute coordinated, with 3 other ships to surround and destroy a medium-sized Devourer that was threatening the medical vessels. The Zephyrian ships fought beside the humans with desperate courage. Their crystal vessels fired beams of pure light that cut through Devourer hulls like hot knives through butter. But there were so few Zephyrian ships left. Only 28 crystal vessels remained against more than 90 Devourers. Elena Vasquez worked frantically at her communication station, trying to coordinate between human and Zephyrian forces. The translation software was working, but the Zephyrian spoke so quickly during battle that it was hard to keep up. Human Admiral, came a transmission from the largest Zephyrian ship. I am Fleet Commander Lirelay of the Zephyrian Defense Force. We thank you for coming, but you must escape while you can. These Devourers will not stop until everything is consumed. Admiral Chen grabbed the microphone. Commander Lirelay, this is Admiral Chen. We did not travel 1,000 light-years to run away. How can we help you win this fight? There was a pause before the Zephyrian replied. Win. Human Admiral, we have been fighting for 6 months. We have lost our homeworld and 4 colony planets. These creatures cannot be defeated. They only multiply. As if to prove her point, the destroyed pieces of Devourer ships began moving toward each other. The green liquid that had sprayed from the damaged vessels was forming into new, smaller creatures. Within minutes, the remains of 3 destroyed Devourers had become 6 smaller ones. They regenerate, Dr. Kim said in horror as she watched. The tactical display. They'd literally eat their own dead and make more ships. Admiral Chen realized that traditional space combat would not work against an enemy that grew stronger from its losses. He needed a new strategy, something the Devourers would not expect. All ships, he broadcast, new battle plan. Stop trying to destroy them. Instead, drive them away from the planet. Use every weapon you have to push them back. The human fleet changed tactics. Instead of focusing fire to destroy individual Devourer ships, they spread their attacks across the entire enemy formation. Missiles and plasma beams created walls of fire that forced the Devourers to retreat or be burned. The Zephyrians quickly understood the new strategy. Their light beams carved lines through space that the Devourers could not cross without taking massive damage. Working together, the combined fleet began pushing the enemy away from Zephyr Prime, but the largest Devourer ship, the one that had first approached the human fleet, was not retreating. It moved directly toward Terra's Hope, ignoring the weapons. Fire that struck its hull. The massive creature was easily 3 kilometers long and covered in what looked like armor made of bone and metal. That thing is coming straight for us, Captain Morrison warned. Admiral Chen studied the approaching monster. It was different from the other Devourers, where they moved like animals. This one seemed intelligent, calculating. It was the leader of the swarm. If we can defeat that one, Admiral Chen said, the others might retreat. How do we fight something that big? Lena asked. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. We do what humans do best, improvise. He ordered the engineering ships to move forward. These vessels were not built for combat, but they carried something the Devourers had never encountered before: industrial construction equipment. Massive drills and cutting tools designed to build space stations and mine asteroids. The engineering ship, F's builder, rammed straight into the side of the giant Devourer. Its mining drills, normally used to cut through solid rock, began boring into the creature's hull. The Devourer thrashed like a wounded whale, but the engineering ship held on, More engineering vessels joined the attack. They used their construction tools like weapons, cutting and drilling and welding. The giant devourer tried to shake them off, but the humans held tight. Meanwhile, Commander Lirelei led her remaining Zephyrian ships in a coordinated attack on the creature's head. Their light beams focused on what appeared to be the creature's brain, a glowing organ visible through its transparent skull. The giant devourer let out a sound that was part scream and part roar. It began to convulse, and strange lights flickered across its entire body. Then suddenly, it went still. The effect on the other devourers was immediate. Without their leader, they stopped their organized attacks and began fleeing toward the edge of the star system. Some tried to consume the dead giant, but the human ships drove them away with concentrated fire. Within an hour, the last of the Devourer's ships had disappeared into hyperspace. The battle was over. Admiral Chen looked around the bridge of Terras. Hope, his crew was exhausted but victorious. They had faced an enemy unlike anything in human imagination and found a way to win. Damage report, he asked Captain Morrison. 17 ships with serious damage. 3 ships lost. 231 casualties, she replied sadly. But we stopped them, sir. Actually stopped them. Aina opened a channel to the Zephyrian. Flagship Commander Lirelei, this is Admiral Chen. Are you all right? The musical voice of the Zephyrian commander came through clearly. We are alive, Admiral Chen. Thanks to you and your brave people, we are still alive. Admiral Chen looked out at the damaged planet below them. Parts of Zephyr Prime were still green and blue, still capable of supporting life. The Zephyrians had lost much, but they had not lost everything. Commander, he said, we need to talk. These devourers will return eventually. Next time, we need to be ready for them. Yes, Lirelei agreed. But first, Admiral Chen, please allow me to say something. In all our history, no species has ever come to help us when we called for aid. You traveled across the galaxy for people you had never met. You risked everything to save strangers. Why? Admiral Chen thought about the question for a moment. Because that is what neighbors do, he said simply. And as of today, humans and Zephyrians are neighbors. The first battle was over. But both species knew that this was only the beginning. Somewhere out in the dark between the stars, the devourers were regrouping. They would return with greater numbers and new strategies, but they would not find the same defenseless prey they had encountered before. They would find 2 species standing together, ready to protect not just their own worlds, but any civilization that called for help. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic alliance had begun. 3 months after the battle, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly built Unity Station, orbiting Zephyr Prime. Below him, the planet was healing. Green forests were growing back in areas where the devourers had stripped the land bare. New crystal cities rose from the ruins of the old ones, built with a combination of Zephyrian technology and human engineering. The sight filled him with hope, but also worry. The devourers would return. Everyone knew it. The question was not if, but when. Commander Lirelei approached from behind, her tall, graceful form glowing softly with the natural bioluminescence of her people. Over the past 3 months, Admiral Chen had learned much about the Zephyrians. They were an ancient species, older than humanity by thousands of years. They communicated through musical tones and lived in harmony with their environment. Evacuation ships are ready, she said in her melodic voice. We have moved 1 million survivors to the safe colonies you helped us establish. If the devourers return to this system, at least our people will survive. Admiral Chen nodded. The human medical ships had worked alongside Zephyrian healers to save as many survivors as possible. Dr. Martinez and her team had learned to treat alien injuries, while Zephyrian healers had taught humans about advanced biological medicine. The cooperation between the 2 species had been remarkable. Any word from the scout fleets? Admiral Chen asked. Yes, Lirelei replied, her musical tones turning sad. The news is not good. The devourers have consumed 3 more star systems. Since they left here, the Andrali Confederation has gone silent. The The Mokari Republic sent one final message asking for help before their communications stopped. Admiral Chen felt a familiar weight in his chest, the same feeling he had experienced when the Terran Council debated whether to send the fleet. Other civilizations were dying while they worked to rebuild just one world. Alina Vasquez entered the observation deck carrying a data pad. Over the past months, she had become the chief communications officer for the new Human-Zephyrian Alliance. Her translation programs had been crucial in helping the two species work together. "Admiral," she said, "we are receiving signals from 17 different star systems. All of them are asking for help. The word has spread that someone is finally fighting back against the Devourers." 17 systems? Admiral Chen repeated. "How many ships do we have?" "The combined fleet now numbers 1,043 vessels," Alina replied. "The Zephyrians have contributed 200 new ships using their advanced crystal technology. But, sir, that is still not enough to defend 17 different worlds." Admiral Chen walked to the large window and looked out at the mixed fleet. Floating around Unity Station, human ships, with their metal hulls and sharp angles, worked alongside Sphorian vessels that looked like floating works of art. The crews had learned to work together, but they were still vastly outnumbered. Dr. Kim joined them on the observation deck. She had been working with Zephyrian scientists to study the captured Devourer technology. What they had learned was both fascinating and terrifying. "We have made a breakthrough," she announced. "The Devourers are not just destroyers. They are collectors. Every species they consume adds to their knowledge and abilities. They learn from what they eat." "That explains why they keep getting stronger," Lirelei said. "Each world they destroy makes them more dangerous to the next. But it also gives us an opportunity," Dr. Kim continued. "If we can share our technology with other species before the Devourers reach them, we can create a network of defended worlds. Each system we save becomes a base for defending the next." Admiral Chen turned to face the group. "You are talking about building an alliance across the entire galaxy." "Exactly," Elena said excitedly. The Zephyrians have given us faster-than-light communication technology. We can coordinate with distant worlds in real time. We can warn them, help them prepare, and coordinate joint defenses." Over the next week, Admiral Chen worked with Commander Lirelei to create a plan that seemed impossible. They would split their fleet into smaller groups and race across the galaxy, reaching endangered worlds before the Devourers arrived. Each group would carry not just weapons, but knowledge, technology, and hope. The first test came at the Andrali system. The human Zephyrian rescue fleet arrived just as the Devourers were beginning their attack. This time, however, the defenders were ready. The Andrali had used the advance warning to evacuate their civilians and prepare their defenses. The battle was fierce, but the combined fleet's new tactics worked. They did not try to destroy every Devourer's ship. Instead, they focused on driving them away while protecting the evacuation vessels. When the fighting ended, the Andrali civilization had survived, and 3 new species had joined the growing alliance. The same pattern repeated across the galaxy. At the Mokari Republic, insectoid warriors fought alongside human marines and Zephyrian lightships. At the Decian Collective, crystalline beings shared their defensive technologies with the Alliance fleet. Not every mission was successful. The Alliance lost entire fleets at some battles. Whole species disappeared before help could arrive. But for every world they lost, they saved 3 others. And each saved civilization brought new ships, new weapons, and new ideas to the fight. Chen found himself commanding not just a fleet, but a movement. Species that had never met before were working together to defend each other. The galaxy was uniting against a common threat. 2 years after the first battle at Zephyr Prime, Admiral Chen received a message that made him smile. It came from Earth, transmitted across the vast distance through the new Zephyrian communication network. "Admiral, the message from the Terran Council began. We have received requests for aid from 47 different star systems. They have all heard about the Galactic Defense Alliance. They want to join. Earth is proud to be part of something larger than ourselves." Alina Vasquez, now Admiral Vasquez and commander of the Alliance's communication networks, brought him the daily reports. "Sir, We now have active defense pacts with 83 different species. Our combined fleets number over 15,000 ships, and the Devourers. Admiral Chen asked. Still out there, she replied. But they are not winning. Anymore, for every world they destroy, we save 5 others. They are running out of easy targets. Admiral Chen walked through the corridors of Unity Station, which had grown into a massive city in space. Children from a dozen different species played together in the gardens. Scientists from 50 worlds worked side by side in the laboratories. Artists and musicians created works that combined the best of hundreds of cultures in one of the schools. He stopped to watch a human teacher explaining mathematics to a class that included young Zephyrians, Andrali, and Makari. The lesson was being translated into 17 different languages simultaneously. What are you teaching them today? Admiral Chen asked the teacher. Basic physics, she replied with a smile. But really I am teaching them that differences in appearance and language do not matter. What matters is working together to solve problems. Admiral Chen nodded. That is the most important lesson of all. That evening, he stood once again on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Commander Lirelay joined him, as she did most evenings. Together they watched ships from dozens of worlds arriving and departing, carrying hope to distant systems. Do you think we will ever completely defeat the Devourers? Lirelay asked. Admiral Chen considered the question. Maybe, maybe not. But we have already accomplished something more important. We have shown the galaxy that civilizations do not have. To face the darkness alone, a new ship was approaching the station. According to Elena's report, it carried representatives from a species called the Valdorians, who lived in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy. They had heard about the Alliance and wanted to join. Every species that joins us makes the galaxy a little safer, Admiral Chen said, and a little more united. As he watched the Valdorian ship dock with Unity Station, Admiral Chen thought about the message that had started it all. A desperate cry for help from across the void. Humanity had chosen to answer that call not knowing what they would find. What they had found was that the galaxy was full of people worth saving. And when those people worked together, they could face any darkness that threatened them. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. And it had all started with a simple human belief that when someone calls for help, you answer.